This is a story about the game Nintendo wishes it could get rid of. No, not that one.
Super Smash Bros. Melee, and how it's still thriving after over 2 decades despite Nintendo.
We dug deep to find the full history of its community.
2013 was one of Melee's best years.
2020 was the year that doomed the competitive Melee scene.
I even tried to win a local Melee tournament here in Toronto.
What happened? I got shit.
And we talked with some of Melee's top community members.
And trust me, they had no shortage of things to say about Nintendo.
I think Nintendo hates us. Went to get milk in 2001 and just hasn't been back since.
I feel like every year you'll see Nintendo try to kill Melee.
Super Smash Brothers Melee!
And down smash! Super Smash Bros. Melee. Released 23 years ago, it is one of the most watched and celebrated fighting games of all time. There have been multiple other games in the Super Smash Bros. Family. 3.5 to be exact. Yet Melee has remained timeless. And originally, when I was making this video, it was about why the game was so amazing. But then I realized, 23 years later, but it's not the game that matters, it's the community. A community that many people did not want to exist. A community that had to struggle and survive just to do the bare minimum that other gaming communities already had. A community that stepped up and created some of the biggest and most watched fighting game tournaments in the last few decades. A community that's still growing today against all odds. Today, we're gonna take you through the rise, the fall, and the rise again of Super Smash Bros. Melee. But why has it brought together such a strong community? Before we dive into that, what makes Melee so different?
Hey, I'm Joey Sweatpants.
I'm Aruj Khalili. I think the game allows you to be really creative and lets you approach things in a different way than other fighting games or any modern games do.
Nintendo spit it out really quickly following the success of Smash 64, and they kind of just nailed it. The art style, the characters, the soundtrack. It's all kind of perfect, and they haven't been able to reinvent the movement mechanics or any of the stuff that people really love about Melee.
Super Smash Bros. Melee can be a very slow, complicated game, but the community, they've made it fast.
So, yeah. Leffen has had a tough day so far.
With precision inputs up to 1/60th of a second, it's no wonder some of the top players have suffered from severe wrist complications like cubital tunnel syndrome and others undergoing surgery. This is some serious stuff. Oh, and this was made by Nintendo. So Melee was always meant to be a party game. It has items, crazy stages, just a lot to make it more chaotic rather than competitive. So if we want to make it competitive, we need a blanket rule set, 4 stocks, only certain legal stages, a time limit of 8 minutes, and no items. We're testing each other's skill of playing the game, so any chaotic or random elements need to be removed as much as possible. Smash Melee has an electric feeling that draws in a lot of players and spectators. When the game released back in 2001, some people already felt that energy. And so groups were formed, tournaments were built, and the Melee community started to build and build and build.
Wombo combo! That ain't Falco! That ain't Falco!
Armada!
Upset did it! Upset did it! The hardest tournament we've ever seen in 22 years!
But as they were building, none of them realized just how much they would have to overcome just to play Melee, or how much they would lose.
One of Super Smash Bros. Melee's biggest tournaments of the year has been canceled.
Over 100 people in the Smash Bros. Competitive community have been accused of sexual misconduct.
But enough foreshadowing. Let me show you for real. Follow me.
So what are we doing here?
So today we're gonna go to the Local, which is a local Toronto Melee weekly right over here. And I'm gonna try to kick some butt. I'm registered in the tournament. I'm gonna try to do pretty well.
Smash some bros?
Smash some bros. Not like that. The way this tournament is set out is that you have 2 lives, if you will. So I have to go against one person in a set. If I lose that set, I get 1 more life. And if I lose that next set, I'm out. My goal is to not go 0 and 2, is to do something better than that. Maybe 1 and 2, or 2 and 2, you know? Or win it all, who knows?
I know I'm gonna be celebrating Stu, the winner of the tournament, because he's bet his job on it.
Wait, what?
So what kind of prize money are we talking here? Is this like League of Legends esport prize pool, or?
Take us out to dinner after?
No, McDonald's menu. No, definitely not. It's not about the money. Top 4 players get a very tiny amount. There's like 50 plus people here, so the odds of me winning, taking any money is very low. But you know, it's never been about the money. It's just about the love of the game, and even from the beginning, it's just been about the community.
It's about smashing your bros.
It's about smashing your bros in your mom's basement. Before the boys get to the tournament, let me show you how it all started.
Nintendo All-Star がゲームキューブで大乱闘
In 2001, like any dedicated community or startup in a movie, it started in a basement with a bunch of really passionate players who wanted nothing more than to play the game. And from their competitive natures, local tournaments were created. From these small tournaments, the best of the best were found and crowned, and these competitors would take Melee to new heights. Top players would create amazing sets to watch, which got more people into the game, which meant tournaments needed to be bigger and better. But the current tournaments were organized by other players. It was just friends inviting other friends from different cities to play Melee.
My friends are like, oh, you're so good, you should go to tournaments. I was like, there's tournaments for these things?
Some players would road trip across the country, barely earning enough money for the ride back, only if they had won. The tournaments were overcrowded, players would sleep over at other people's houses that they just met, get up, play Melee, and then road trip back home. All for the love of the game, and this energy was infectious. So infectious, MLG, the esports circuit before esports, picked up the game from 2004 to 2006 in their pro circuit, putting a party game turned competitive by the community into a fully realized professional competition. Melee was being compared to Tekken, Halo, and Call of Duty as a serious competitive esport, and MLG loved the huge support that its community was giving them. No more basements. This was about Melee players lining up in droves to see the best players in the world play on a professional stage. But even as Melee became more recognized as a competitive game, players started realizing something else. They were building bonds that would last a lifetime.
So what kept me in Melee? I would say like just the people. Like I've met probably some of my best friends in the last like 10 years of playing. It's not even really about the game as much as it is about the people.
When I tried to put my, energy and stuff and point it towards the competitive part of the game, it didn't feel the same as my successes did as an organizer. Seeing new faces, having people thank me at the end of every night, like it sort of makes up for lifting these giant TVs every time I run a bracket.
Coming from COVID, it was very nerve-wracking, the idea of going out. Melee being a main motivator for me to get out of the house and actually meet people. And I think nowadays I'm pretty friendly with almost everybody in the scene and just like going out to talk to whoever's new.
The memories and friends I make along the way are just, it's timeless. It's a lot of my good friends that I've met in the scene that are going to be lifelong friends for me. I'm going to be obviously friends with my whole life, right?
From 2004 to 2006, Melee was becoming the hot new competitive game and was continuing to grow. In 2007, it was officially listed in EVO, and the only way you got into EVO was to have a game that was respected for its competitive nature and an insane amount of passion from its community. This was Melee being recognized on a global setting, the way its community played, the unintended, serious way. It was viable enough to be broadcasted worldwide.
Put it in perspective, imagine you and your friends invented dribbling in basketball. Melee wasn't ever intended to be as competitive and serious, but there was something in the movement, the speed, the energy, that got these players to start developing new techniques to play how they wanted to. Wave dashing, dash dancing, shield dropping, tech chasing, wave shining, L canceling. Melee was different, and now the world was gonna see it. And then suddenly, great news from Nintendo in 2006. A new Super Smash Bros. Game was coming out with the name Super Smash Bros. Brawl. The community was excited and divided. Where was this next game gonna take the game competitively? Had Nintendo seen what the Melee community had been building for over the last 5 years? In March of 2008, the game was released in North America, and everyone had to play it.
So casual Wii owners bought the game and loved it.
Brawl is a spectacular achievement and an amazing, truly amazing multiplayer game.
You've got yourself all the ingredients for a smash hit.
It's a game that you'll likely be returning to again and again for a long time out.
When the Melee community bought the game, something was off.
If you played a lot of Melee, what you're immediately going to notice, everything pretty much feels the same.
This was not the game Melee was. The random and chaotic parts of Smash Bros. That were sidelined for competitive Melee were back in full swing with Brawl. Elements like tripping were added to the game, where your characters just have a random chance to trip while turning for no reason.
Over $2,000, ESAM versus Mewtwo King, and they laughed because literally the game started and he tripped.
Imagine putting banana peels in an MMA fight. The game was much slower and lighter compared to Melee, which massively toned down the speed that Smash Melee players were accustomed to. The new Smash Ball item gave everybody super attacks that were horribly unbalanced, almost impossible to deal with, and had very little to do with skill. Nintendo was clearly sending a message. Smash Bros. Was to be a party game, and that's it. And the once excited community realized that if they wanted the feeling of playing Melee, it could only be from Melee.
1, 2, 3, Melee!
With the introduction of a new Smash Bros. Game in 2008, the goodwill the Melee community had built was transferred to Brawl, as both MLG and EVO dropped Melee from its official lineup in favor of Brawl. This was a sting to the community, but it only fueled the fire of Melee's rise. The community built their own tournaments that are still going strong today. For the next several years, from 2008 to 2013, these tournaments saw more and more people joining, watching, and becoming a part of this evergreen community. Meanwhile, Smash Bros. Brawl was dropped by EVO officially in 2009, just 1 year after its big stage debut. Melee, however, was proving that it was a game that needed to be played. But more than that, this was a community that needed to exist. So for the next few years, top players were crowned, crowds were cheering and yelling, and the community knew that it was only a matter of time for the world would notice them again.
Let's do this. After you? Yeah. It's time. I'm feeling it.
It's 7:19 right now, so you haven't even played your first match, but we see you practicing right now.
I think he's winning.
How are you feeling?
Pretty bad. Pretty bad. That's exactly what I was thinking. This is like, I'm 16 again, and I'm getting my ass kicked.
No.
Like,
did you win any games?
No, I guess I didn't. No, I'm still gonna win.
Yeah, because it's bracket too, so you might avoid that guy, right?
Well, not just that. I played bad on purpose.
You want them to feel sorry for you.
That's the point. That's the whole point of the video. So.
Alright, stop your friendlies!
You ready for this? There you go. It's friendlies time. It's done. Time for the unfriendlies.
Alright, first game of the night. Give me your thoughts.
I'm feeling scared. We'll see how it goes.
Quick recap. For the games themselves, it's best 2 out of 3. If Stu wins, he keeps his lives and proceeds higher in the tournament. If he loses one of his 2 lives. So let's hope he wins. And no spoilers.
Should we debrief?
What happened? I got very bad. I basically did. That's Joe. Good luck.
He's focused.
destroyed me, went down last stock. I need to do some percentage on him. He killed himself at one point, which is great because it means I didn't get absolutely f***ed over, which is awesome. I'll take that. I'll take that. It was 2 games, fast, quick, 3 minutes each. In and out, 6 minutes.
But you have hope because there's another game.
There's another game. There's another round. We're still feeling it. It's not over until it's over.
Failure. Okay, that's 1 life down, but I'm still in the tournament, and playing your first tournament is tough. Take a Rouge, for example.
Oh boy. The first tournament I went to was Mixed Smasher 4, which was in February 2015, about 9 years ago, which is crazy to think about. I lost to prominent streamer and commentator Gimmer. He 4-stocked me on stream. However, I still made it out of pools, which I'm pretty happy about. And then I got 8 stocks by one of the greatest players of all time, Armada, in a combined minute and 15 seconds. So yeah, it was a great tournament.
See, it's not just me. Just back to the video. And then the world started noticing. 2013 was one of Melee's best years. 4 years after getting kicked from EVO, and a full 12 years after the game had been released. EVO brought back Melee onto its official partnered competitive games after winning an open spot given to the community that donated and voted the most. And EVO, well, it was different now. Careers could be started here. Sponsors and esports companies were looking for talent. Top Melee players could start to do Melee professionally. At the same time, the Smash Brothers documentary by Travis Samon-Bouchon was released online and became a viral sensation. A full history of Melee's grassroots origins was delivered to anyone and everyone. And once again proved that Melee's energy was infectious, as it brought with it a slew of new people anxious to play competitive Melee. The game was getting a resurgence, and top players were making huge waves. Melee tournaments were now seeing unprecedented entrants and viewership. Melee was in a renaissance, and from it, new tournaments were created. The community greatly benefited from many tournament organizers and community members that created online ranking systems. Considering the scope of these fan-made tournaments and how well they ran, it was through these people that the giant tournaments could function as well as they did. Outside of tournaments, dedicated fans and talented game designers and coders worked in the creation of Project M, a modification of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Project M redesigned the game to play more like Melee, adding in older characters, new moves, new stages, just a lot of stuff. If you want to know more about gamers building games within games, then you better check out our other GameFrame video, link in the description below. This was the peak of the rise of Melee, and it looked like it couldn't be stopped, except something is missing in all this, or should I say, someone. What do you think Nintendo thinks of Melee and the whole community behind there?
Dude, I think Nintendo hates us.
They've always been hating. They'll never really get to make your own rules as long as Nintendo's in the picture.
They want to be seen as kind of this like family-oriented, non-competitive, everyone can play, and we get in their way.
They don't like seek to help out our scene, they just kind of seek to promote whatever they can get out of it, and most of the time if they can't sell a copy of a game, then they don't want it to exist. It's kind of been more on us to build it up.
How do I say this? 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
It's like Melee's like the outlier.
It's hard to tell because they haven't completely put their foot down and ended it, but they've come pretty damn close to doing it.
I mean, I can remember like I think one tournament that Nintendo's officially sponsored, but everything was sanctioned, everything was great, and then unsurprisingly,
how does Nintendo being absentee make me feel? It's all I've ever known at this point. I think most of the community's pretty numb to it, honestly.
In the most recent Capcom Cup, an All-Stars tournament for Capcom's latest Street Fighter VI, Capcom promoted that over $2 million in prize money will be given to these top-level players. The first place prize itself being $1 million of the total pot. Capcom acknowledges and builds its communities, yet Nintendo has only gone out of its way to disassociate and dismantle their own. In EVO 2013, one of the best years in the revitalization of Melee, Nintendo reached out to EVO itself to not just shut down live streaming of the game, but to shut down any competitive playing of Smash Bros. Melee. Nintendo backed off after an outcry from the community, but the rift between Nintendo and the Melee community was only just beginning. Nintendo threatened many tournaments like EVO, the Big House, and smaller streamers for just playing Project M. For almost 20 years, Nintendo did not have a single official tournament for Super Smash Bros. Melee, and never donated financially to any prize pools. Compared to other companies wishing that they had a community as passionate as the Melee one, it just sucks that Nintendo wasn't more involved. In 2022, however, Nintendo finally partnered with Panda Esports to create an officially licensed tournament tour, but more on that later.
How do I look? You look fantastic. I feel a little bit like a fish out of water, but I think it's a beautiful thing, you know? I think I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna try and... This looks like fun. Last tournament I was in was an online chess tournament, and didn't do so well. Maybe this is my game. It's looking good. It's looking good for boy Stu. It's been pretty equally matched thus far. We'll just have to see what happens.
This is it, Stu's final chance. He's out of the tournament if he loses 2 out of the 3 games, so just relax, Stu. You got this. But remember, job's on the line.
That was close.
So what happened? What happened out there?
It was a close game. It was a very, very close game. So the first round, that guy was clearly like he was like next level stuff. The second guy, he was a lot more on my page. First game, I took it. It was awesome. Final stock. Second game, I got that close. First set was like, it was a wash.
So you faced LeBron.
So I faced LeBron, and this time I faced, you know, the guys like same age, you know, like we're both learning about basketball and stuff. But after that second game, I just got in my head.
Yeah, it felt more even that game too. But
yeah, it was just like,
you made a couple mistakes.
It was that, because my brain, like, I was like, oh my god, am I gonna do this? It's gonna be like the 1-2 story. It's gonna be such a good story. And then I lost and I was like, shout out to that guy, Kevin. Good games.
Yeah, so now you're knocked out of the tournament.
0-2. You know, I tried my best. So,
but you know what comes next. You made some pretty big promises.
Code the camera listen.
Yeah,
you don't
this
have
is
to fire me.
I mean, that was the agreement. So.
It got legal then.
Yeah.
We're taking you to court. Oh, you better believe Glassdoor is gonna hear about this. Oh, I mean, was this it for me? Was Team GameFrame really going home so soon? Or was there more to this story? Maybe there's one final part you won't want to miss. Back to the video.
A certain company that acknowledges us but refuses to push us. I hope you're listening right now, because I want you to hear this. I want you to hear the amount of people who support this league, the amount of people who want this to be a lifestyle for people. This is not just a video game. This is a lifestyle, all right?
The previous head of Nintendo America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, stated to Hungrybox's call-out that Nintendo wanted to keep out of the way of the Melee competitive community, saying, "We want to do this much more at a grassroots level than others' visions around leagues and big upfront payments and things of that nature." And I have to get real, guys. It was total bullshit. Thanks, Nintendo, for not stamping the community out entirely, just piece by piece, so it really stings.
From 2013 to 2018, the Melee community was changing, and no one could determine if it was in a good way or a bad way. Good things happen though, like Nintendo acknowledged the Melee community by creating official GameCube controller peripherals to play the newer Smash games. That's pretty cool. EVO 2016 saw one of Melee's biggest viewership counts ever, with over 215,000 concurrent viewers. So it looked like Melee was growing, despite Nintendo's looming presence. Since Nintendo was still shutting down Project M live streams and keeping a close eye on Melee tournaments. The bad news came throughout 2018 to 2020, such as longtime player and fan favorite Adam Armada Lindgren announcing his retirement, citing a declining interest and motivation to play the game. Losing a top player always takes some of the energy and fun out of even the best tournaments. In EVO 2019, Melee was officially fought. In EVO 2019, Melee was officially removed from the lineup, and once again, Melee had been replaced by the new and shiny Smash Bros. Ultimate. No hate against Smash Ultimate, it really is a fantastic game, but it's clear Nintendo wanted Ultimate over Melee on the big screen. It was a tough pill to swallow. Viewership for Melee's own tournaments were still hitting high numbers, but the shift had taken place. Melee was changing, and it needed to adapt to stay relevant. Could Melee continue to grow if top players and top tournaments decided to part ways? Was this the beginning of the fall of Melee? Oh.
It's now January 2020, a few months before everything changes for Smash Bros. And the first major tournament of the year, Genesis 7, is looking to have a giant upset with a new challenger taking the stage, Zayn. And after several brutal matches against the world's best Melee players, Zayn is looking at grand finals against the #1 player in the world for the last 3 years, Hungrybox. It's best of 5 games, so Zayn just needs 3 wins to make history. And if he does it, it could be the next step the Melee community so desperately needs.
Zayn versus Hungrybox, grand finals of Genesis 7. What would it mean if Zayn wins this tournament from the winner's side, not dropping a set? Zayn's gonna be a problem. For 2020, the clean slate of Melee. Will it be new blood taking us into the next decade, or will Hungrybox continue his reign across the 2020 world line divide? But this looks like Hungrybox's game. Oh, that's gonna be... All right, it's all gonna happen here. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Let's go, Zayn coming from the crowd. Around the lines. Oh, but Zayn double jump. What was that double jump? The adrenaline pumping through these players' bodies must be insane.
Going real high.
Oh, that's gonna be it. Zayn! And Zayn takes Genesis 7. Toph! Everyone knows that Zayn is a problem now.
This could be it, the evolution that Melee needed. With Zayn winning Genesis 7, 2020 looked to be a new, better step for Melee and its community.
If he plays like this, we're in a new world, Toph.
We're in a new world. If you didn't know, now you know.
It couldn't fall, except in July of 2020, multiple serious accusations hit the Smash Bros. Community, from Smash Melee to Smash Ultimate. More than 50 victims came forward during this time to expose prominent community members on extremely serious topics, such as SA and harassment involving minors. It shook the very core of the Smash Bros. Community. It is also important to note that these allegations were completely unprecedented. Bans from tournaments and many sponsors removing themselves from the community were the immediate responses, with tournament organizers and top members of the community working together to address each accusation, all while working to keep the community together. This serious issue eventually gained the attention of Nintendo, and they released a statement. At Nintendo, we are deeply disturbed by the allegations raised against certain members of the competitive gaming community. They are absolutely impermissible. We want to make it clear that we condemn all acts of violence, harassment, and exploitation against anyone, and that we stand with the victims. An already strained relationship with Nintendo, it was hard for 2020 to get worse for the Smash Melee community.
And then it got worse. As the community scrambled to keep itself afloat, an issue on a global scale popped up. COVID-19. See, Genesis 7, the tournament where top players and new blood like Zayn were starting to really breathe new life into the game, was also the last in-person major tournament in 2020. Suddenly, Melee, more so than most other popular fighting games at the time, ran into a massive roadblock. This game came out in 2001, before online multiplayer fighting games really existed. The only way to play Smash Melee was in person. So how are players going to play Melee during a worldwide pandemic? Emulators existed and there was slight online functionality, but nothing near the level for such a precise and input-heavy game as Melee. And thus, 2020 was the year that doomed the competitive Melee scene. Or maybe not.
Don't worry, Slippi's here.
What's Slippi?
Slippi is a way to play Smash online, pretty close to how you play in person.
It's an emulator with rollback netcode that allows us to play online with our friends or with random players in your region in a seamless way.
Slippi has had a huge impact on the Melee community. There was like a big revitalization once people were able to just play in their homes. It was pretty necessary once COVID hit. Since then, we've had quote unquote Slippi kids who started after and who are better than we ever were. It's kept Melee alive, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a thing. I've been owned by Slippi kids. Yeah.
This was a revolutionary step for the Melee community, as suddenly it expanded the way players could play, train, or even host tournaments. This was the next step in the evolution of Melee, and everybody was on board, except for one company. In November of 2020, Big House 10, a now decade-old tournament, received a cease and desist letter from Nintendo for using Slippi. Their reasoning? The upcoming Big House tournament announced plans to host an online tournament for Super Smash Bros. Melee that requires use of the during their online event. Nintendo saw Slippi as piracy and promptly shut it down. There is basis in Nintendo shutting this down. They're not incorrect saying that the fundamental part of Slippi is piracy. It's the emulation of Melee. However, for an almost 20-year-old game at this point, during a worldwide pandemic, in a community that Nintendo had barely even thought of, it just felt like Nintendo was punching down more than anything else. Super Smash Bros. Melee is not available to buy on any Nintendo eShop or online in any way. Nintendo is not making any profit or selling Melee. They are doing nothing to build a community that just has the utmost respect and love for their game. It just feels like a slap in the face. And so, the Nintendo community decided to make the free Melee hashtag. Oh my god, you're gonna win, James. Oh my god, put this in. Get him, James. Oh! Okay, reset.
Hashtag Free Melee was a community effort to remove Nintendo's ever-present thumb over Melee. However, Nintendo was not having any of this. During an officially licensed Nintendo stream for the tournament of Splatoon, that goopy multiplayer game, players in that tournament showed their solidarity for the Melee community. They changed their names to ensure Free Melee was on stream, only to have Nintendo cancel the entire tournament at the last minute for vague reasons, citing unexpected executional challenges, whatever that means. Many people in both the Melee and Splatoon communities didn't buy it, so they did what they always do. They created a grassroots tournament called the Squid House, which resulted in the highest Western viewed Splatoon tournament in a prize pool of over $25K and $3K to charity, which was bigger than Nintendo officially offered. But Nintendo never officially responded to the Free Melee effort. Instead, the hashtag slowly faded away. Was this the bottom for the Melee community? Had Melee finally fallen after over 2 decades of dominance?
Then, out of seemingly nowhere, a new light for Melee fans appeared. Nintendo partnered with Panda, creating the first ever officially licensed Melee tournament, which also included Smash Ultimate, by the way. This was massive. Nintendo was finally acknowledging the Melee community by creating a tournament for both their newest Smash game, Smash Bros. Ultimate, and the 2001 game that they couldn't get rid of, Smash Bros. Melee. Partnering with Panda gave legitimacy to the news. Panda was fairly well respected in the community and had a long history of helping build tournaments for gamers. The Panda Cup would involve many of the grassroots tournaments working together, ending with a climactic Panda Cup finale for the winners of the grassroots tournaments to come together for the ultimate showdown. The Melee community already had something similar called the Smash World Tour, but Nintendo and Panda insisted the two could coexist in harmony, which meant more Melee for the community. Everyone was excited. Melee was not over, and nothing could go wrong. Well, nothing did go wrong until November, when the Smash World Tour was abruptly canceled by, well, you guessed it, Nintendo.
The ever-growing rift between Nintendo and the Melee community came full force when the Smash World Tour claimed that both Nintendo and the trusted Panda esports company were the reasons behind the cancellation. Through many long back-and-forth statements, twit-longs, and vague apologies, the consensus came to many players who had contracts with Panda to immediately dissolve them, and most of the community to drop out of the Panda Cup. This led to the Panda Cup finale being indefinitely postponed and their former CEO, Alan Bunny, resigning. What had been a shining hope for the Melee community and perhaps mending the rift between company and community, well, it only left a larger, widening gap. Just a gaping hole. So I'm out of the tournament. That means we can all go home, video done, and I tell you to subscribe or else I'll fucking die. I will. Well, no. Oh, okay, well, kind of. See, there's this thing the local does for people like me who go 0-2 or 1-2 called the amateur bracket. Basically, they pair off into 2 teams and those teams go head to head. You know what? I've been losing a lot and I was determined to make the night at least somewhat of a success. And so I was the first person from my team to play against theirs. And I was gonna put everything into this. I needed to win. And then I sat down and I thought, F it. I should just have fun. Because everyone here was like me. They just wanted to have fun playing Melee. So with the support and hype of my team behind me, I was able to take 1 stock. And then another stock, and then another stock, and I won my first game. Unfortunately, I was then knocked out in the next round, but man, I went out swinging.
And that's when I realized something about Melee that I hadn't thought of. Let Green Screen Me explain.
Melee had fallen to its lowest point after the Panda Cup, and it never really seems like it could recover from this fall. And then myself, James, and Taylor went to a Toronto weekly local called The Local, and we realized it never really fell. It was still rising even after all the controversies and changes. Melee was evergreen, and it took the tournament to really show us that. And for me personally, it was a feeling like no other to be back after so many years of playing Melee, screaming and cheering, laughing and crying, and just playing Melee with some of the coolest people I've had the privilege of meeting. Because as much as Nintendo continues to shut down and limit the Smash Melee community, it can't limit the passion they have for this game and for their own people. So I encourage you, check out Slippi. Check out the amazing Melee content creators out there. Check out your local tournaments, and you'll find one of the best communities out there.
Where do I see Melee in the next 5 to 10 years? I don't really care as long as, some tournaments are around. I just kind of want to play with my friends.
I think as long as we still have functional CRTs and our Wiis aren't, rotted to the core, I think we'll be okay. Behind the scenes, Nintendo doesn't care about stuff like this. They're never going to shut down a 50-person local, but these 50 people are having the night of their lives.
I hope it sticks around. I feel like the grassroots stuff, is definitely the heartbeat.
I mean, I think it's still going to be around because I'm always wrong when I think it's it's going to dial down now. It capped today at this tournament here at the local. It's a random Tuesday at a bar and 48 people. And we had a lot more people who wanted to register but couldn't.
Probably the same place it's at right now, to be honest. I've been playing for almost 10 years and the numbers are basically the same for events.
I hope our numbers keep going up. I hope people continue to play the game.
In the next 5 or 10 years, I think it's a very pivotal time, kind of. It really depends. If no one learns how to actually portray what's going on and all these stories going on to the general public who doesn't really know what's actually happening, then there's a chance it's kind of declining. But if so, I think there's so much happening that it's in a really good spot.
I think the future of Melee is very bright. I think people who started playing recently are more motivated than ever to contribute to this scene.
I'd like to think it's going to keep going, and it's kind of on the backs of people like y'all making documentaries, or people going to locals, attending, supporting small stuff like that. It's cool that the big dogs get to drive the storylines, but at the end of the day, it's the thousands of weekly small tournaments that make it more than the 8 big ones a year or what have you.
Wow, incredible!
In the Melee community, many are game developers who took matters into their own hands and made their own platform fighters, like Nickelodeon All-Stars, Rivals of Ether, and many, many more. If you want to see more on gamers making games, check out our GameFrame episode, How Gamers Reinvented the Wheel and Then Got Crushed by It. Or if you want to see why we think video game adaptations are the next MCU, both links are in the description below or on our channel. Are you a f***ing Sigma? If not, then you better not subscribe. Thanks for watching the video. Like, comment, subscribe, or I'll f***ing kill you. If you don't subscribe, my boss will f***ing kill me.